In this daily drop, it's part 2 of my current tabletop setup, so let's go. All right, everybody, finishing off the week here in the barn. I'm a little bit grubby, and I'm not apologizing for it. And as the saying goes, slow and steady wins the race. And if you don't have a client that's looking over your shoulder and you're really trying to figure out things for a project, don't rush. Take your time, because it's usually that time that not only lets you figure out and dial things in the way you want, but also lets you come up with some other ideas that you may not have been thinking about. So yesterday's episode was kind of part 1 of me just sort of assembling things into place for this tabletop setup. I'm going to be shooting a lot of product shots with this setup. So I just wanted to talk to you today about where I am right now. Not done, but definitely evolved from yesterday's episode. So the first thing that I've done is move the gray background that I'm using, and I've moved that back a little bit. Now, what that's allowing me to do is with my key light, which hasn't changed, though it has, because I have added the grid for more control in terms of spill. If I pan that left or right, it will let more or less light on that background. But because that background is further away now from the table, there's more fall off of light, and I'm getting something that just feels a little bit richer in terms of look and feel. Now, if you take a look at the setup here, which is not, again, for the products that I'm going to be shooting, though the Axoon CineMaster 4K is on the table there. That is one of the products that I'll be doing. And a little bit trickier because it's going to be vertical, and I'm going to have to figure out stuff in terms of how to mount it, but I have some ideas. But you're getting a sense of the evolution of the setup of what I'm doing. So for the most part, the key light is still in the same position. The backlight is still in the same position. But what I've done is I've added this Lazy Susan, which I've had for ages and ages. You can pick these up relatively inexpensively on places or in places like Amazon. It is the end of the week. But you should be able to source them from places like restaurant supply stores as well. You might be able to get them in a craft store, but Amazon is probably going to be your best bet. Note, read the reviews, because what you want is you want something that's smooth. I don't really care about sound when I'm running these for tabletop stuff, but I do care that it is a strong enough motor that I can put heavier things on it, and it's going to be a consistent turn. Now, why do I have this? Well, I have it because there are certain times when I'm showing a product where a slider is not necessarily going to do the job of what I want it to do, which is actually show a 360-degree view of a particular product, or at least show the front of the product, then you can see the back of the product. Lots of the things that we use in this industry have ports, so seeing those inputs, those outputs, and things like that is important. So the combination of having this Lazy Susan and then also having the slider gives me lots of options in terms of what I can do. The slider is set up right now, so it's sort of going left to right. I can obviously have it set up so I can do pushes in and out for kind of rack shots and stuff like that. So lots of flexibility there. And then on the table, you might also see a couple of other things. I've got a little SmokeNinja, which I may use for certain things to just create a little bit of atmosphere. I've got some other stuff from Lensbaby, which I might mess around with just for some in front of lens prism type of effects. Will I do that? Not exactly sure. But one thing I'm definitely going to do is, you saw that gray background before, which is just the gray background with light fall off. But what I've done is I've set a PavoTube, PavoTube 2, I think it's the 30X, and it's fully color tunable. And what I've done is I've set that behind the table out of shot. and it's just lighting the width of that background. Now, using the Nanlite app on my iPad, I can now change, and I'm in HSI or hue saturation intensity mode right now. I can just change the color and dial that in, or I can use some of the other pages in there and use just sort of predetermined colors, whatever I want to do. So this just gives you a sense of the flexibility I'm going to have when it comes to changing color for the background. And it's a beautiful thing because it's a middle or 18%, or neutral gray background. And I always say that if you're going to choose one background for what you're going to do, a neutral gray is great because it can be so many different things. It takes on color extremely well. So that's kind of the update on where I am with this. I am playing around with the actual top of the Lazy Susan. I have a coat of paint on the standard top, which was white. I want to actually make that sort of a matte black, which is going to give me more flexibility. I also like playing around with things like vinyl records, though the one that you're seeing right here in the shot has a label. I've just ordered some prop ones, which have no labels, and it's nice because those vinyl records pick up some nice light when you are using the backlight, the key, and stuff like that, and it can work for certain things. So it's an evolution. I want to create a setup that gives me tons of flexibility. Still more to talk about in terms of the setup. I guess the pie is ready. I don't know. That's the 3 p.m. on October 31st Halloween prep reminder, because my wife and I are going to go set up the car for trunk or treat. If you don't know what it is, look it up on the interwebs. Don't forget to. And I'll see you on the next episode of The Daily Drop.